Hello and welcome to episode 2, the history of early India. So, as we talked about a little bit last time, we have some of the river valley civilizations that are popping up. One of the ones we talked about was the Indus River in India, well, in between modern day India and Pakistan. And they will delve into their societies a little bit more. So, like we said, they have the city of Mohenjo-Daro, which means city of the dead, which archaeologists call that because when they found the city, a lot of the people were dead in weird or like kind of violent ways. So yeah, so then the question becomes, what happened to the Harappan civilization? Obviously, India is not called Harappa. You know, they're not around those people anymore. So what happened? So, see, that's one of the things about really early history is sometimes we don't know entirely what happened. If you go back really far, like, we're not sure what happened to the Minoans, or why that happened to the Minoans. But with India and the Harappan civilization, you know, we can make some educated guesses. So, a lot of their cities show evidence of earthquakes or famine, pestilence, stuff like that. And then around the same time that they disappeared is when the Indo-Europeans, the guys I talked about last time, when they came into the scene in India. So as they migrated down, they invaded and kind of destroyed a lot of the more indigenous northern Indian kingdoms. So with these new Indo-Europeans, as they're called in India, the Aryans in Indian history, they come and bring kind of new ways of thought. They're very warlike. And one of their big things is their religious system, which is different from the pre-existing Indian religious system. It's based on, like, actually, it's part of the whole Indo-European polytheist thing. So, like, the early North Indians had a god called Dios. And, you know, that's like their father god. And then you think, well, who's the Zeus's, or who's the Greek god, father god? Zeus. You know, and then how do you say God in Latin? Deus. So, making some connections. Yeah, cool. So, some of the traits of these new, they're called Brahmic religion, or the new Brahmic religion. Brahmic. And Brahmanism. As it's kind of like going around northern India, it's polytheist. And one of the things that it starts, which is a continuing thing in India, is the caste system, whereby people are kind of born into their jobs, and we'll hit on that right now. So one of the main features of this new Indian religion, which later is called Hinduism, is that everybody, so you have your dharma, like the job you're supposed to do. And then if you do that, if you're a good person in life, then you get karma. And you have good karma, then when you die, you are born into a better caste. If you do bad things, if you ignore your calling, then you go to a lower caste in your next life, or a lower form of being. So yeah, so that's some of the traits about Hinduism, and so that really catches on in northern India. And they stay pretty disunified societies for, 1,500 BC, 400 BC, 300. But then there is a kind of cataclysmic event. Remember last time we finished with the Persians, right? Well, not to spoil it, but the Greeks, led by the Macedonian Alexander the Great, take over the Persian Empire in the latter half of the 3rd century BC, so like 300s BC. So now that Alexander the Great has taken it over, he kept going past Persia and came upon some of the early North Indian civilizations or societies, and he fights them, and Alexander, it's kind of like a stalemate, because the Indians have a very unique weapon called elephants, which really kind of scare Alexander's soldiers. So now Alexander pulls back, but it's kind of an impetus in northern India to kind of unify things a little bit more. So then after Alexander's empire kind of fragments, you have different groups coming together into the first major Indian empire, and they are the Mauryans. I'll have my Indian eraser. The Mauryans, and they are called that because their founder is Chandragupta Maurya. So, Mauryans. So Chandragupta Maurya, he is a Hindu, and so now that's kind of like a unifying thing of early Indian civilization. Yeah, so you have Mauryan society, and then one of his grandchildren, Ashoka, comes along, and he's a convert to a new religion, which we'll talk about now. So Buddhism is something that comes about, and actually what's modern-day Nepal, but it has a very heavy influence on, Indian society and then East Asian society later on. And so what the gist of it is there's a guy, Siddhartha Gautama, who he sees suffering in life and feels that Hinduism doesn't adequately deal with that. So his new way of thinking, and again, this is like Confucianism in that it's less a religion, more like a way of thinking, way of existing, that you have to get past human desires and like human whims to move on past suffering. So that's through meditation and similar activities. So he's very pacifistic, very nice, be nice, all that great stuff. So it's a very different mindset, and it doesn't actually take off too much in India. Like I said, Chandragupta Maurya's grandson Ashoka is a Buddhist and kind of spreads Buddhism through India a little bit, but it never really supplants Hinduism. So, yeah, it'll later spread elsewhere. So, let's see if there's any other big India stuff. There's some of the vocab words, like I said, Dharma, twice born, pariahs. Pariahs, that's slipped into English. That's like very low class people in the caste system. Reincarnation, that's, after you die, you come back again. Your soul comes back in a new form. And blah, blah, blah. Nirvana. Okay, so in Buddhism, when you attain that state past suffering, that's nirvana. And there are some other religions that take on in India. One of the big ones is Jainism, and Jainism is another one. It's another interesting religion in that they're very, very careful not to destroy life in any form. So even killing insects is not okay in Jainism. And one of the last things, so the Indo-European invaders, when they took over northern India, one of the things they brought was their language, Sanskrit, which is very similar to Latin and Greek and stuff like that. Look it up, it's pretty cool. But Sanskrit becomes the written language of the religious texts of the early Brahmanist or Brahmic priests. And so another vocabulary for that. So those texts are the Vedas. So early Hinduism is known as like Vedic. It's the Vedic period when those things are written down after centuries of being more of an oral tradition thing. So yeah. All right, that's about it for India. Tune in next time for round 3, which is China.